Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes bad decisions. This is something we always hope to get better at. Every day I wake up, I want to make better decisions. I want to make fewer bad decisions. That is the goal. That is the struggle every day. All right, how do I lose belly fat? So the first thing is going to be diet. You want a high protein diet. Generally, I will start at 1 gram per pound body weight. Fat is going to be around anywhere between 0.25 and 0.4 times body weight. Usual starting point for me is going to be 0.3. It really depends on, how much fat you have to lose and what you do best on in terms of carbs or fat for energy. I default to having most people do a lower fat and a higher carb diet on a fat loss plan. They just seem to do better that way. They seem to have more energy. They feel better. Eventually, we could switch them if they just, like to eat higher fat and lower carb. We could switch them to that. But if I'm gonna get paid to do a fat loss plan, I'm not gonna risk doing that. Most often, I'm gonna have higher carbs and lower fat. And then we basically determine, your body weight. We determine your calories. Simple math is like 10 times body weight or 12 times body weight, somewhere in there. And then we figure out the protein, we figure out the fat, and then the rest is going to be carbs. Now, food choices are very important. Protein and produce first and foremost. So we want meat, beef, bison, yak, elk, chicken, eggs, fish, dairy if you tolerate it, whey protein if you tolerate it. And then we want produce next. So I'm a big fan of fruit. So protein and produce, for me, I say bison and berries, beef and berries, something like that. And then depending on your fat, your body fat percentage, we can add in starches like white rice, rice and grinds, sweet potatoes, yams, white potatoes, red potatoes, gold potatoes, things like that. What I would do is at the beginning and in terms of produce, obviously vegetables, leafy greens I think are great. I like eating cucumbers, which technically are a fruit, carrots, things like that. So anyway, what I would do is at the beginning really focus on gut health. At the beginning of a fat loss diet, most people just think about the aesthetics versus how you're going to feel and your gut health. So I would recommend you do something like a paleo AIP type of thing at the beginning, where we're really just eating AIP means no eggs. I like to keep eggs in there. I think eggs are, nature's superfood. It's one of the best things you could eat. It's like a multivitamin in a container right there. So I would say, for most people trying to optimize gut health, eat meat and berries, fish, eggs, maybe cut the dairy, and avoid potentially inflammatory foods. So again, no grains, no sugar, no corn. I would cut out nuts and seeds, even extra oils. Most people already consume too much fat, so you don't want to be adding a ton of extra fat, like all this extra oil and nuts and avocado. That just skyrockets your calories. It's easy to eat a lot of calories like that. So now you can add this stuff back in later, but for now, if you're trying to get lean and you're trying to optimize your gut health and reduce inflammation and just really feel good, optimize your immune system, I would focus on the foods that I mentioned. And for the meat, keep it lean as well. 90 is going to be about the highest fat I would go. I would tend to stick even more with 93, 95, as high as 99% lean meat. And you can order that online. Sometimes it's really hard to find that in local supermarkets or Whole Foods. But you can get that. North Star Bison's a great website. You can tell them that I recommended you go there, northstarbison.com. And then just, fruit, like honey is something that I would add. Other paleo safe starches can be an option. Cassava, taro root, things like that. Squash, pumpkin, if you can tolerate them. Eat 3 to 4 meals per day. Don't drink your calories. And I would also, drink your calories, meaning don't have juice, don't have soda, things like that. Just black coffee, tea, water. That should be the liquid that you're consuming. And anytime you drink water, have it with Element. Which you can get at drinklmnt.com/renegade. Always do that. You don't want to just consume water without electrolytes. It's highly inefficient. And strength train about 3 to 5 days per week. I will say that you'll get leaner. 9 times out of 10, I see guys get leaner training 4 days over 3 days. Training 5 days over 4, not as significant, but if you're trying to do everything to get as lean as possible, then lifting 5 days, as long as you manage volume and intensity and can recover from it, should be a little bit more effective for getting lean. It's just simple math, right? You're just doing more work, and strength training is going to be more efficient for helping you get lean versus just adding in more cardio. If you add a bunch more cardio, it's not going to be as efficient. So always get 10,000 steps a day. You always want to optimize your sleep. That's something that people don't think about a lot when they are attempting to get lean. It's the last thing they consider. But if your sleep isn't optimized, then your hormones will not be optimized, and then you will not lose fat as efficiently. So really do the things that you can to maximize and optimize getting at least 7 hours of sleep. 8's even better. And the things that we've covered a million times, make sure you have blackout curtains. Make sure your room is about 66 to 68 degrees. I even wear one of those face masks. You could have a cooling mattress. You could, have some white noise if that helps you sleep, like a fan on or something like that. Make sure there are no electronics in the bedroom. Make sure your phone's not in the bedroom. Ideally, unplug stuff. Certainly don't have the Wi-Fi router in there. Unplug the Wi-Fi. Don't have a TV and, stereo and this and that and the other thing in the bedroom. That's going to be optimal. And then minimize stress and anxiety. Anytime you have off-the-charts levels of stress and anxiety, or not even off the charts, just above normal, which we all kind of do, right? But like high-ish, then your stress hormones are going to go up, and your stress hormones actually make it hard. If they're elevated, they make you fatter, and they make it harder to lose body fat. You tend to hold on to body fat, especially around the abdominal area, which you don't want. So do what you can, get outside in nature, get sunlight, hang around with people that you love, laugh, watch comedy. Things like that are all, people don't think about that. But if you're trying to get lean, that's something that I do recommend, and something that I do think is important. And you got to just stay the course. Like, you're not going to be ripped in 2 weeks. You just have to be consistent and do the mundane, boring things day after day after day after day, right? Next question. Do you train any differently if you slept like shit the night before? It depends. Was it just one night of shitty sleep, or was it multiple nights of shitty sleep? Because if it's multiple nights of shitty sleep, then for sure, then we might want to consider, let's take the day off. Let's do a kind of a deload-ish day. Let's cut the volume. Let's cut the reps. Let's cut the intensity. You're sleeping like shit 3-4 nights in a row. Something's going on there. We want to figure out what that is, but we're going to probably want to, keep that workout, keep that in mind as we go into that workout. Why was my sleep shitty? Address that, right? But what I would tend to do is, if it's just one day, it's like, whatever. We'll go in, and let's say I only got a shitty 6 hours, where usually I get 8 good hours or 7.5, 7 good hours. Now I got a shitty 6. Okay, I know my workout's not going to be my best, but hey, I want to, maintain my routines and rituals and habits, and I don't want to kind of, be a pussy and start making excuses every time something happens. Every time I get a, scratch or something, I'm going to miss a workout. So I'm probably not going to do it, other than if, like I said, if it's just a one-time occurrence, not going to do it. But if it's other things are going on and I have a lot of stress and shitty sleep, multiple times, then of course, then we want to still go into the workout, kind of feel things out a little bit. But if I'm already feeling it, I'm feeling fatigued, I'm not able to get as many reps on things, or even during the warm-up, I'm just like, oh man, everything feels heavy, I'm beat up, then you're definitely going to want to adjust. And you can do what's known as kind of like a little neural primer kind of workout that helps you recover. Like on a day you were going to go in and lift, maybe you just do some easy box jumps, some easy medicine ball throws, some easy cleans, some stuff that's kind of fast and explosive, but it doesn't tire you out. It actually reignites your energy and kind of, fires you up a little. Is a good way to recover. But again, if you're feeling banged up, I would lower the overall volume. So do fewer work sets that day, do fewer reps overall. So if you're normally going to do, let's say 8 to 12 reps on stuff, maybe you'll drop it down to like 6 to 8 or 5 to 7. That way you don't have to go as close to failure. When you bring the reps down, you don't have to go as close to failure to achieve anything, to stimulate gains. So that's kind of an idea you could play with. You can increase the rest periods, whereas you might normally rest 2 minutes. You bring those to 3, and just know that you're not trying to set any records on that day. You just listen to your body. You're not digging yourself a deeper recovery hole, and you're not also being a pussy. You're just kind of being brutally honest about the situation. Now, what is an ideal post-workout meal or breakfast after a 5:30 a.m. workout? I'd say the main difference would be the type of carbs and the amount. If it's later in the day, I'm going to suggest having a lot more starch from rice or potatoes or cereal. A lot of my guys, myself included, can eat up to a full box of cereal post-workout. I wouldn't want to do that, though, if it was first thing in the morning, right? At 5:36 in the morning, I don't want to sit down and chomp my way through buckets of rice or potatoes because it just feels like very time consuming. It's not something you want to do at that time. You're kind of amped up. You're ready to go. And I do think eating that many carbs, you're going to kind of come down after that. You're going to crash a bit and you're going to be tired. You're going to be a little bit full and bloated, even if your digestion is optimized. So I would say I'd save that till later in the day. So, you got to figure out what works for you. It might just be fruit. It might just be, protein and a big bowl of berries and a banana. That might be ideal for you. Some people might be able to get away with a little bit of starch, meaning you finish that workout, let's say you have some lean steak and eggs, and you have that big bowl of fruit, but also, hey, I could do one slice of sourdough and it doesn't have a negative impact, or two slices, or I could have, this much, like a quarter cup or a half a cup of hot rice cereal, like Rice and Grinds, and it doesn't negatively impact me. So you got to play with that ratio and see what works best. Fruit isn't the best for replenishing muscle glycogen, so if you can get some starch in there right after, it's better, and especially if you're doing everything you can to maximize muscle growth and recovery, then yeah, I'd probably want to get some starch in there post-workout. But again, if you feel better with fruit, you're dialed in, your digestion's on point, you have no crash, and your cognitive function's optimized, you're focused, and you know that doesn't happen once you add the starch, then just save the starch for later. It's not the end of the world. So figure out what works for you, and then, just figure out your individual tolerance. Like I said, if you add maybe 20 grams of starch or 30, maybe up to 50, you do well, and then that's your threshold. Now, if you go, I have 30, I feel great, and 40 to 50 grams, I'm asleep, then you know where your threshold is. And it could be the type, right? So sourdough might put you to bed. Rice and Grinds, you feel great. You got to figure out, for you, what exactly that is. All right. Next question. I have a torn rotator cuff. Are there any workarounds while I rehab? Yeah. So first I got to say that I'm not a doctor. I'm a doctor the way that Dr. Dre and Dr. J was, whatever. I simply play one on the internet on this podcast. But it's hard to give rehab advice over the internet. Anyway, the things that I could say are this. You should always train around an injury. Sometimes I'll hear people say, I blew out my elbow. I have golfer's elbow, tennis elbow, whatever, so I can't train for a few weeks. Well, what are you talking about? Of course you can. There's a million things you could do. You could train neck. You could train abs. You could train, maybe you could train shoulders. Maybe you could train chest. Maybe you could train back, depending on the exercises you're doing. Maybe you could do any kind of rowing and bending and flexing that elbow bothers you, but you could do cable flies for chest, and you could do stiff arm pull downs for back. There's always things you can do. If you're even if your arm was in a cast, you could train lower body, you could train abs, you could train neck, calves, hamstrings, glutes, quads, and you could train the other arm. So that's known as the cross innervation principle, where if you have something that's injured, let's say you put your right arm in a cast, but you train your left arm throughout that time. Now, don't do an inordinate amount of volume. I'd still do reduced volume, maybe 1 or 2 sets per body part. But what that does is that's going to help the uninjured side, the injured side, not lose as much strength, not lose as much size. And when you come back, when the cast gets removed and you start training that side again, it's going to bounce back a lot faster. You're going to regain that strength and that size a lot faster. So that's what I would do. And again, don't make excuses. You could always train, even if this guy said, I don't know the detail, but he said, I have a torn rotator cuff. Well, currently so do I on the left side, partial tear, and I have a partially torn labrum. These things happen. I'm 49 years old. I've been training and doing all kinds of stupid stuff for all 49 of those years. You put mileage on your joints, put some wear and tear on there. It happens. It is what it is. So with that partial tear, I had to, shift my training to more of a rehab focus for about 4 months there, 16 weeks. And now it feels exponentially better. And a lot of things that I couldn't do 4 months ago, I can do pretty much pain-free now. Now, of course, there's always, slight angles and exercises that I got to be careful of that I can't do. But as long as I'm smart And as long as I don't let my ego take over and I select the right load, the right exercises, the right rep scheme, the right frequency, the right sequencing, I can do these things relatively pain-free. So that would be my first challenge to you, is see, how do you work through this? How do you work around this? How do you rehab it as best you can? I always like putting off surgery. Surgery is a nightmare. Recovery just takes way too long. You're inflicting a lot of trauma on your body that's going to add up and accumulate. So I would do whatever I could to push that off and just continue to train and just be smart about it. How many reps should I do to build muscle? Well, it really depends. I am old school. I'm 49 years old. I've been doing this. I've been obsessed with this since I was 13. And, I was heavily influenced by the teachings of Iron Game legends like Arthur Saxon and George Hackenschmidt and, the old Bosco courses and Mark Berry and Steve Reeves and Reg Park and you name it. And those guys actually detested high reps. They thought it was just a way to tire you out and make you weak and make you small. And they did not like it. One of my early training Bibles was The Strongest Shall Survive by Bill Starr. The whole system was built around 5 reps. During that time, Bill said, hey, research shows that an average of 4 to 6 sets of 4 to 6 reps produces the most size and strength gains. So we're going to average that and do 5 sets of 5. So they would do a big press, a big pull, and a big squatting exercise. And that was the whole program, 3 days a week, switching it up. So maybe you're doing a flat bench on Monday, an incline press on Wednesday, and a overhead press on Friday, and a clean one day, a row one day, and a chin up one day. Mixing it up like that. And so he really, again, did not like high reps. Later in the phase 2 and whatnot, I think if I'm remembering correctly, I think Bill had you going up to 8 reps and maybe even 10 reps on some stuff. But he was really, the focus was on those lower reps. Now, the Iron Guru, Vince Gironda, really famous, really well-known guy, paved the way for a lot of us here, early pioneer. He never had hard gainers. In his book, he said, I will never have the hard gainer do more than 6 to 8 reps for a variety of reasons. I remember he said something like, due to the nervous, emotional makeup of the hard gainer, I will never have him do more than 6 to 8 reps, something like that. And again, myself, I wrote the hard gainer column for 10 years in men's fitness. I am the ultimate hard gainer with I'm skinny fat. I have tiny joints. I get injured easily. I get sick when the wind blows. A lot of these things I have fixed, obviously, but it took a long time. And so, I really took that to heart. The first, and I've trained a ton of hard gainers as well. If you're listening to this show, you're probably a hard gainer. If you're someone who gains muscle easily, I don't think you're listening to this. I think it's those of us who are really challenged that are constantly searching for a better way. So you're probably a hard gainer as well. You're a hard gainer if you're over 40, no matter what, no matter how your genetics are, for the most part. If you have genetics like John Cena or The Rock or something, maybe a little different. The first Mr. Olympia, Larry Scott, I believe that was 1959. His favorite rep scheme was 6 to 8 reps. He liked going heavy and doing multiple sets of 6 to 8 reps. When Dorian Yates came to the forefront of bodybuilding in the early 90s, he won his first title in 92 or 93. Back then, everyone was doing higher reps in general, but you generally had people doing 10, 12, 15 reps in all the magazines, Flex Magazine, Muscle and Fitness. And Yates came along and was big on those heavy sets of 6, 8, 6 to 10, but he liked those heavy sets of 6 to 8, man. And so that was his kind of thing, and it was a lot lower volume. But, he said, you're not going to grow with these foo-foo weights. You got to go really heavy and, do 6 to 8 and grow. So all that to say that I have been largely influenced, and I do default to prescribing lower reps more often than not, certainly for beginners. No matter their age, someone who's new to training, if you're new to doing an exercise, I just think that you're going to get a lot more out of lower reps early on. And the nice thing with lower reps, a few nice benefits is from the get-go, you're going to have higher levels of intramuscular force. So the force production is going to be higher. you are going to have, it's going to be easier from the first rep. Like if you're over 85% of your 1 rep max, so let's say on a standing press, you could do 100 pounds. If you take 85 pounds there, anything at 85 pounds or above, you're going to have full fiber recruitment from the first rep, which means you don't have to push as close to failure, which is nice because pushing closer to failure accumulates more fatigue. So if we don't have to go that hard, that's going to be a really nice benefit there. But you will not get as much soreness and stiffness from lower reps as well. And again, it doesn't cause as much fatigue. I'm not sure if I mentioned that already, but you have less overall fatigue throughout the week if you're doing fewer reps. But now, all that, to say that it really does depend. It depends on the person, depends on how strong you are, depends on your age, your injury history, the exercise, right? So let's say, we take me, for example, I'm 49. I've had my share of wear and tear on the joints. I've had some injuries. Now, I may be able to press pain-free on certain exercises 8 to 12. That seems to, let's say, be a sweet spot. But maybe with a good machine that really fits me well, I can get down to 6, and that feels great, right? It really depends on the person, the exercise. If you're really strong, I don't think you're going to want to be in your 40s and 50s pressing 5s, right? Now, a dumbbell press, right? So if we compare, let's say a Nautilus chest press, 5 reps feels great. On a dumbbell press, 5 reps feels horrible. You might want to go no lower than 10 reps. It really depends on the individual. And again, the exercise, the joint health. So some guys might be able to say, let's say, hey, I could squat for 5 or 6 or 8 and feel great. Leg extension, different exercise, right? Knees feel terrible if I go below 12. Split squat, different exercise, same person, same knees, same hips. Reps seem to be in a sweet spot of about 10 to 12, right? If I do 5 or 6 on a split squat, my knees and hips feel like they're going to explode. So we just got to pay attention to all these things, your joint health, your experience, how strong you are. And again, you can grow muscle and you can even get stronger anywhere, but really build muscle anywhere from about 5 to 20 reps, as long as you're coming close to failure, as long as you're coming about 1 to 2 reps shy of failure. The higher reps, the less joint stress there will be during that set. But now, on the other side, the more likely you are to get some inflammation in the joints there, in the tendons and ligaments, and maybe, be a little bit more sore, be a little bit more fatigued. So everyone's got to kind of figure out their sweet spot. So I wish there were a universal answer where I could say, hey, everyone should do 6 to 8 reps. Or it was based on muscle group, right? I could say, hey, the pecs seem to be predominantly fast twitch for a lot of people, so you should probably stick with lower reps on the pecs. Your soleus muscle tends to be more slow twitch, so you should tend to do higher reps. It's just not that easy. It really depends on all the factors I mentioned. So I would say, somewhere between 6 and 12 is going to be the sweet spot. That's always kind of been the hypertrophy or the bodybuilding sweet spot. But again, just be smart about it. 6 to 8, sometimes on a lateral or push down or a curl, is really heavy if you're strong and you're banged up, and you're strong and you're banged up and over 40. It feels awful. So on an isolation movement like that, where the force is being dispersed over only one joint instead of 2, then you really want to consider maybe I'm doing 10 to 15 on that. So deadlifts, for example, suck for high reps, really risky, injurious. So you might want to keep them in a lower rep range. So risky to do neck for 5 reps, right? No one should be doing that. So you just want to keep all these things in mind. Lastly, the question is, what do I do about doing things I don't want to do and the regret and shame after I make those choices? Well, look, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone makes bad decisions. This is something we always hope to get better at as we get older. Who doesn't? Every day I wake up, I want to make better decisions. I want to make fewer bad decisions. I want to have less regret in my life. That is the goal. That is the struggle every day. Can we guarantee that we will never make another bad decision, never do anything wrong? Of course not. Will we do something that we're embarrassed by or filled with regret? Of course not. That's what's going to happen. But we work harder every day to have more discipline, to have more self-control. And most people don't have any sense of purpose. So without a sense of purpose, you're going to be lost. You're going to default to making those bad decisions. I've been victim of that. I've done that. Without a sense of purpose, you're going to do things that you regret. You're going to make bad choices. You're going to make bad decisions. You really One of the best pieces of advice I ever heard was, if you don't have a mission, make it your mission to find a mission immediately. Because then when you have a mission, even if it's not your life's mission, but for now, okay, temporarily, for the time being, for the foreseeable future, this is my mission. Now I could wake up each day and I could let my mission and my purpose kind of guide my decision making. So hopefully I don't make as many of those bad decisions or those things that I regret or am embarrassed by, or let myself down, or broke a promise to myself. So when you make it your mission to find your mission, a lot of this stuff gets better. Most people lack clarity. So when you have clarity, things get better. It becomes easier to not make those bad decisions. When you have your purpose, you can choose that over pleasure, right? So when you figure out what that purpose is, when you figure out what that mission is, things are going to get better. Now, for the shame and regret, the simple answer obviously is, and maybe it's not the best answer, the answer you want to hear, but it's really the only answer, is you will live your life riddled with shame and regret if you can't move past it. You just got to move forward, and it's easier said than done, but we all have it. Some people let it cripple them and let them stay in the same spot forever. Or you just say, hey man, I made a mistake. I'm moving forward. That's in the past. I close the door on that. New chapter. Every day I get to reinvent myself. Every day I get to be someone new. And I'm not living in the past. I'm living in the present, and I'm moving forward. And that's it. And, that's about the best any of us can do, right, guys? We wake up every day trying to be better. And that's all I got. I appreciate you for listening. Thanks so much. I do a open Q&A on Instagram once a week, so make sure you follow me on Instagram. We'll link that in the show notes. In my stories is where I ask for questions. If you haven't left an iTunes review yet, it would be great if you could share the show. Tag me on Instagram if you do share the show. I'll give away some stuff. And that's it. Appreciate you guys. Thanks for listening. Talk to you next time. Peace.